Thank you guys very much for being here. This is our third installment of the semester of Entrepreneurship Live. My name is Brett Chikowski, and I wanted to let you know that we are recording this, broadcasting it on the TexTalks podcast. You guys should definitely check that out. We have a lot of episodes up of entrepreneurs from Austin, and you can find us on iTunes, you can find us on SoundCloud, you can find us on texttalks.info. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Now I wanted to introduce our guest speaker for the day. This is Jeff Carpenter. He comes to us from Oklahoma, University of Chicago, and the Wharton School of Business. Jeff in Austin has started two very successful software companies, so please help me welcome Jeff.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff. I just wanted to start with your newspaper. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to do that?
Okay, before I start answering your questions, yeah. I need to raise a hand. Who here is in the MBA program right now? Awesome. Who here is second year MBA? All right, who here is thinking about starting a business as soon as you graduate? Oh, really? All right, good. So this isn't a waste of my time. This will be fun. All right, what's your question?
Okay, the newspaper. Mm-hmm. Is it your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
Pretty much, yeah.
And tell me, why did you decide to do that?
Ooh, that's a long question. So, grew up very poor in Norman, Oklahoma. Didn't graduate from OU, so no one has to walk out. I still root for them. Sorry. My buddy told me no Charlie Strong jokes. So I'm not going to make any. I love Charlie Strong, actually. Keep him. So, grew up very poor. Lucked into University of Chicago. You'll hear me say lucked into a lot. Had no idea how I got there, but I ended up there. People ask me, why'd you choose there? And there's really two reasons. One, my best friend at the time was going there, and he said, Jeff, you should come. I said, okay, maybe I will. And then I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anybody remember that movie? All in Chicago? Boom, I was in. So back then, I lucked into some financial aid and scholarships and went there and hated it. I was way out of my league. I was not smart enough for that crew. But managed to get through it, through some cold Chicago winters and some really competitive academic environment. And got a job. 1991 is when I graduated college. That was a very, very difficult time to graduate college. You may not remember that. How many of you were born in 91? Don't raise your hand. I don't want to know. It was a very difficult time, and jobs were not very plenty, and I lucked into a job with the state of Illinois. And learned there that I didn't want to be a government employee the rest of my life, but I had no choice at the time. But I learned some skills there. Anybody remember Aldous PageMaker, a desktop publishing software? Probably not. Anyway, a little graphic design thing, how to make a newspaper. This is pretty cool. And again, another friend of mine said, you know, you can make some money by going out into the market and offering your desktop publishing services to the market. And I said, oh, really? Ooh, that sounds pretty cool. And I did it, and I got lucky. And I got a couple clients, and I thought, man, this is pretty neat. $20 an hour, cha-ching. I'm rich. 3 clients. It was great, but not enough to pay the bills. So then I was getting sick of the government job. So I had this guy approach me, and he said, hey, we are starting a newspaper for the taxi industry, Chicago, Illinois. It's called the Chicago Taxi Times. Anybody heard of it? There's no way. And I said, sure, that sounds fun. Why not? But I had to take a big pay cut. I went from $14.50 an hour to $11 an hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was a lot at the time. So I did it. Glad I did it, but it kind of stunk because the guys were already rich taxi medallion owners. I don't know how rich they were, but they seemed rich to me. And they really weren't that interested in growing the business. It was just 3 of us. But I spent 6 months with them learning how to do it, learning how to sell ads, learning how to design newspapers, learning how to interview taxi drivers. I was really good at that. And then the newspaper kind of folded. But I had this idea. At the time, my parents had moved to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Anybody familiar with that place? And they were really struggling. My dad had filed bankruptcy a couple times. My mom had had a pretty serious injury, and they were struggling. And so I had this idea to start a newspaper for senior citizens in Hot Springs, Arkansas. My dad, even though he was struggling, was a great salesperson. My mom, even though she was injured, could write stories and interview folks, and I could do the design and fund the development and do kind of the business stuff. And off we went. And I'm very, very glad we did it. It was never successful in terms of what you all would view as success, but it was just successful enough to pay all of their bills, which they were very happy about. And more importantly, it made them celebrities in Hot Springs. It's kind of a retirement community. It's mostly older people. So when they would come knocking, it was a big deal because they knew they were going to be in the paper, and it was pretty cool. It was a great experience, and it was that experience that got me into the Wharton Business School, because there weren't a lot of Wharton Business School applicants who had started a newspaper for senior citizens in Hot Springs, Arkansas to support their parents. I was one of a kind on that one.
What was the most valuable experience you took away from starting that newspaper?
Never do business with family, unless you absolutely have to. It was tough because my dad, as much as I love, oh, this is going on the web? I don't think my parents' internet works right now. As wonderful as my dad is, he would sell just enough ads to pay the bills, and never more. My mom didn't have a college degree. She was writing based on instinct. Not the best writer in the world. And it's not a lot of fun to tell your mom, hey, you know what? Think you could juice up that article a little bit? I didn't do it very well. So that was tough, but it was more about the business side. And I realized, and this is a point I want to make earlier, or make later on, when you're choosing your partners, it is very, very, very important. The best learning I'm going to give you today, when you're choosing your partners for an endeavor, a business endeavor, you need to make sure you're all on the same page with what you're going after. And I'll talk more about that later, assuming we get past my childhood.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on.
All right.
So in business school, tell me, about the job search in the last year. You had a pretty compelling story last time we spoke.
Well, it hasn't changed. It's still the same. Who here has already found their job for second year in business? Who here of the second year MBA students have already got their job lined up? Okay, who hasn't? Okay. Is that, Javier, give me a quick understanding. What's the job market right now for second year MBAs? Is it great? Is it just okay? Is it terrible?
It's okay.
Just okay. Okay, when I graduated in '98, it was awesome. Remember how I said in '91 it was a terrible time to graduate from college? '98 was a great time to graduate from business school. The internet was just getting rolling. Dow Jones was up. Everything was positive. It was great. And even a bumpkin like me, who hadn't done anything really in the business world, I would go on these interviews just as a lark, and I would get offers. I don't want to tell you who some of the offers were from, because you will think very lowly of them, because I was a really terrible interviewer, but they gave them to me. They were just handing them out. It was great. And big dollar offers, money that I'd never even come close to making before, 6 figures. But I said no. I said no to all of them, because I learned while I was at Wharton and through my experience with the paper that I wanted to run a business someday. And there weren't a lot of opportunities coming through Wharton to do that, right? Lots of great consulting jobs, some good iBanking, some interesting marketing stuff. But I just didn't want to do it. Something was telling me to hold back. So here it was, I think April 15th of my second year, and I went to Vegas with about 8 of my buddies. It was kind of a last hurrah. They all had jobs, right? Goldman Sachs, Enron, you ever heard of them? A couple of them had jobs with them. A couple of them with Lehman Brothers, you ever heard of them? They were ready, right? They were ready to conquer the world. And they all said the same thing to me. Carp, what are you doing? Aren't you getting married in 3 months? Yeah. Don't you have about $100,000 in credit card debt? Uh-huh. What kind of student loans you got? You don't want to know. Why don't you take one of these jobs, right? And let them pay for your loans, chill out for a couple years. I mean, you'll work hard, of course, and just ride the train like we're all doing. And I thought about it, and I didn't do it. But I really didn't have a plan. And then luck entered once again. So it was mid-April, and back then the internet was still kind of whatever. So every day I'd go to the career and placement office just to see what was new. And there was this new posting in there. And it said something about trucking, learning to run your own business. Sounded kind of dicey. In Austin, Texas. It's like, what? So I called the guys, and they were really cool, really smart. And they said, come down to Austin and meet with us. And I said, all right. So they flew me down there. Oh, and they flew me from Philadelphia to Austin on a U.S. Air flight that had, it was either 2 or 3 layovers. And later on, they told me they did it on purpose, just to see if I was kind of the kind of guy who was going to complain about stuff like that. And I didn't. I was just happy to be on an airplane. It was pretty cool. So I got there, and I realized what the opportunity was has anybody heard of a company here called Lone Star Overnight? They're still around. You'll see their vans around. But it's just like FedEx, but only for the state of Texas back then. So the 2 partners had founded it in 91, built it up, and sold it in 96 to a private equity company. And the private equity firm in 98 said, hey man, this model's awesome. You guys are profitable, you're making money, but it's only for Texas. Let's take let's take this model and plop it down in the other part of the country. Midwest overnight, California overnight, something. The only problem is we don't have anybody to do it. We don't have anybody to do the research. We don't have anybody to run the company. So let's go hire a smart MBA to do that for us. Luckily, these guys didn't have a lot of forethought because they waited until April to make this decision. And by then, 99% of my class was done. And they only recruited for some reason at Stanford and Wharton. And of course, all the Stanford guys were gone. So I took the job. And it was the best decision I could have ever made by waiting because it was a lot less money. I think I started at $85K. And I tried to negotiate for all this stuff. And they're like, what? Are you crazy? 3 weeks vacation? Are you nuts? I think they finally gave me like $2,500 for signing a non-compete, only because they had to. That was my bonus at the time. But moved to Austin, got married in Michigan, moved to Austin in August. And it was awesome because I learned how to run a business. The key thing you're looking for at this first job out of your MBA program, at least that worked for me, is you're not looking for the most money. At least I wasn't looking for the most money. I wasn't looking for the most equity. I wasn't looking for the coolest opportunity. I mean, this was overnight shipping in 1998 when, all Amazon, everything's blowing up. eBay, CD Now, anybody remember them? All these companies blowing up, and I go to do overnight shipping with trucks and waybills and $10 an hour couriers and all this, non-techie stuff. But I did it because what helped me was, and what you all should be looking for, is people that can help you get to where you want to get to. And I had 2 bosses who understood what I was trying to do, and they were amazingly helpful. I was in on all their meetings. I'll never forget, I wasn't there 4 months, and Gary Gunter, who was the president at the time, had to fire a guy. I'd never fired anybody before. We drove to Houston. There was this guy named Tripp, and it was this big shot from FedEx. They'd brought him in 6 months ago, and the culture fit was just not working. And Gary had to let him go, and this guy, as you can imagine, 3 kids, and 100, big salary and all that. And Gary, brought me in and started the process of saying, and just did it so humanely and with such respect and dignity, but also clearly stating, here's why this is happening. I couldn't believe it. And it was just an amazing learning experience, even till the very end. And at the very end of that meeting, I'll never forget, Gary said, do you have any questions, Tripp? And Tripp just looked at me and said, yeah, why is he here? And I felt terrible. Because I really shouldn't have been there, right? I wasn't his boss. I barely knew him. I'd only been on a couple routes with him. But I had the right mentor that was willing to put us both in an uncomfortable situation so that I could learn from it. So that's what you're looking for when you're starting out your new career, is mentors and people that will go the extra mile to help you get to where you want to get. And I was lucky to find 2.
So even though you...
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think...
Whatever it was?
I think we got to it. But I'm curious, you knew you wanted to start your own company, yet you ended up taking a job. It was because the job taught you about running a company?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Wharton, I was known as the guy who wanted to start a company, right? And some of you may be going through this as well. Everybody would come to me, Jeff, I've got this great idea. We should do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. I'm in. I probably had 7 or 8 of these guys, and women too. Every time we'd get a little further down the path, it would fall apart. And I can't blame them. Let's see, do we want to go start a, whatever stupid idea we had at the time, or do you want to take this $140K a year job at McKinsey, right? It was tough. And it was frustrating to me because I thought there were some ideas that we had that were pretty decent. And I remember I had 2 guys that we were ready to go. And that's part of why I held off on taking a job too. In hindsight, I'm like, oh, I was just patient. But no, I mean, I thought I had some other things going on. And it fell apart at the last minute. And I was just so bummed out and frustrated that these guys didn't do what they said they were going to do. But I've forgiven them. I understand. I mean, it's tough to give that up. But it was frustrating at the time. Is anyone here going through that where you think you have a great idea and you think you've got the perfect partner and you're all, this is awesome, we're MBAs together and we're going to go make it happen? I haven't seen it happen very often. 4 guys I did see it happen from my alma mater, Warby Parker. They're all from Wharton. Probably 3 or 4 of you are probably wearing those glasses right now. They've done great, but that's a 1 in a million shot. It's tough to come out of any business school and start a business straight out. Some people do it. I couldn't. I mean, at some point I had to look at my situation and go, broke, about to get married. She doesn't want to be that broke. She'll be broke, but not that broke. And so when that opportunity came along, I jumped at it.
So moving back to mentorship, it seems like that's pretty important to you in your career. How do you go about selecting a mentor or selecting a mentee?
Put them through the ringer. I get a lot of requests. To meet with folks and people your age and that want to start a business or are thinking about it. You have to be prepared when you're making those requests. You have to know what you want out of these meetings. I've kind of stopped taking them because they've annoyed the crap out of me. Because the people that want something, I'll go to these meetings and I'll say, this is great story. How can I help you? And they don't know, right? The one primary person I'm mentoring right now surprised me and showed up to this little deal tonight. He's sitting over there. I'm not going to point him out. Steven, stand up. This guy up there. He's one of the few who, so he's a University of Oklahoma grad, so you can throw stuff at him. But my 8th grade girlfriend was working at OU and asked me to come speak to the students about whether to go into law school or MBA program or something. I can't remember what it was. But I met Steven on that trip, and then they did the OU MBA, or was it undergrad? Undergrad program did a trip into Austin, and I offered to show them our company. And we were just getting started then at AcademicWorks. And every single one of those kids, right, I took them out for drinking. Remember those shots we did at Lavaca Street? Remember how fun that was? Hope all of you were of age. I don't know if you were. Okay, right. You all said they were. But every single one of them, oh, Jeff, you're great. You're awesome. I would love for you to mentor me. You know, that would be great. I want to start my own business. I want to Like, that's awesome. Here's my contact information. Just let me know when you're ready. He's the only one that not only followed through, but also followed through with the plan, right? Okay, Jeff, here's my plan. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here are the deliverables I'm trying to execute on. And he hasn't always done it, but he's always communicated where he's at. And so we've been, talking 3 years now? And just before this started, we were talking about, I mean, he's got a startup that's in business now. He's out talking to, and is this still stealth mode? He's got this, and this, by the way, this business is not where he started, but now he sells software to vets, right, to help them, help people with pets analyze their problems over video chats with their vet rather than bring them in. And then the vets monetize that, and he gets a little bit, really cool. That's not where it started. It's come a long way from where it's at. So we were just talking today about his sales calls that he had this morning and how much it sucked getting up at 7:30. And that's been a blast watching him, grow and get to where he's at. But he's been 1 in 100. The rest of them just haven't followed through. So if you're going to do it, don't waste people's time. Have a plan, right? Have a plan, have questions, have deliverables. This is what I want out of this relationship. And they will end, and it's okay. It's okay for those relationships to end. It's all right. It's not a big deal. You don't have to keep dragging them out if there's not mutual benefit from it. But just be clear. Be clear with folks. Because you know what? In 10, 15 years, people are going to ask you for the same thing, and you're going to expect the same.
And what about your mentor? You started People Admin with a mentor, is that right?
Yeah, the guy who hired me, two of us left, bragging about how we've avoided technology because we're, But midway through 99, we're like, hey, let's forget this shipping stuff and go start an internet company. So we did. He was actually an ex-professor here, a guy named Jack Long, and now he's a professor at the Acton MBA program. Definitely my mentor. You could not find a more different person than me. He is the smartest guy I know. He would hate doing this. He's very introverted. He loves finance, legal, accounting, HR. I hate all that crap. I like sales, customer service, product management, strategy, culture. So it was a perfect, perfect fit. It was even more perfect because he put up all the money to start the business. That made it even better. And he said, Jeff, I made a little money when we sold Lone Star overnight, and then that doubled in the stock market. So I'm willing to take that and bet it on us. We had this original idea that was really, really stupid. We researched that for about 4 months. HEB finally said no, and we both kind of had a sigh of relief because it was really a dumb idea. So we stepped back and we said, all right, do you want me to go into this people admin history?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
You sure? I don't want to mess up your program.
I approve.
Okay, great. And so 4 months into it, this is 2000, May 2000, we said, well, we both like technology. We're not that good at it, but we understand the impacts it can have on business. What's a set of problems that we had at Lone Star overnight that could be solved by technology? And our number one problem there was hiring people. We had 20 offices around the state, 500 employees, so dealing with hiring couriers, customer service folks, it was a big pain. So we said, what if we build a software system that could automate the hiring process for small and mid-sized companies? Wouldn't that be awesome? We'll get rich. It'll be great. Everybody will love us. Let's do it. And we did. We hired Momentum Software to build the technology. I hired about 15 people to come in and sell it and support it and all this stuff. And on January 1, 2001, we released it to the world. And it was an utter, complete disaster. And the reason is, I could sell it. I could sell this software to small and mid-sized businesses, but we were going to go broke trying to customize it because every market wanted something a little bit different. They all wanted, well, how about this? How about that? And of course, we said yes to everything. And it was a disaster. I mean, we were calling, my current president now, he was our very first sales rep, and we were calling on bowling alleys and grocery stores and funeral homes, and I'll never forget, a funeral home was the first customer to sign on the line that is dotted. And they paid us $400 a month, and we were damn happy to get it. But very quickly, we realized this wasn't going to work. How we realized that? Remember that theme of luck? I had hired about 12 salespeople at that point, each one worse than the last. They were all terrible, right? And I kept I was terrible at it. The 13th, maybe it was the 14th, I don't know, guy, I was like, man, I got to keep, and I was, rotating through them, and it was just awful. And the 14th guy, he had some applicant tracking experience at a company called Hire.com. Anybody remember that company? Anyway, I brought him in, and I almost didn't interview him because I was having a terrible day. So I said, all right, Brandon, come in and tell me what you got. And within 30 seconds, I realized, this guy is not like the others. He is not just telling me what I want to hear. This guy is really smart. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to hire him and see what happens. Well, 2 months later, he comes to me and he says, hey, Jeff, I got some good news and some bad news. And I said, yeah, what is it? He said, well, the good news is when I used to sell software to colleges and universities, I would sell them career and placement software. But the HR office would always ask me, do you have anything for us? Is there anything that we could use that your company can sell us because we have real problems? And we didn't. And I think that we might be able to sell into that market. And I said, well, what's the bad news? He said, everything else. Number one, the software that we have now, we got to throw it out. It's not going to work. It's not going to be what the higher education vertical needs. I mean, we had it set up to take fax, paper, IVR, internet, everything, a joke. Because back then you weren't really sure that the internet was going to be the end-all, be-all, right? We were trying to hedge our bets, and because of that, it was a disaster. Because first, you know that software you just spent $1 million on? You got to throw it out. I said, you got more bad news? He goes, yeah. The size of the market, it's not very big. I think it's really small. And I know you guys wanted a big company. Maybe I think we can grow this to $1 million company, $2 million company, maybe $3 million. We'll see. I said, okay. You got any more bad news? He said, yeah, I think we're going to have to let everybody go, except for these 3 or 4 people. I think these other 15, they're not going to fit because they've been in a culture of failure for the last 18 months. I don't think they know how to adjust. I said, man, this is an awesome day. Great. And I had this other sales rep. I had one other sales rep. And he came in and he said, Jeff, you can't listen to him. Listen, I've got Dave & Buster's. They're ready to sign. American Airlines just called me back. They're ready for another meeting. HEB's ready to go. We can blow this thing out. Sack and Pack. We could do it. Those were the 4 companies I remember. I'm sure there was more. All these big companies want to buy the software the way it is. Don't listen to him. So, man, I thought about it for a long time. My partner was like, hey, look, this is your decision. Here's what I think about it, but I want you to make the call. So I made the call. Anybody have any guesses which way I went? Which way did I go, Stephen? I went the smaller route. Whether it was fear, right? Whether it was luck, I don't know. But just something about Brandon, I just trusted him. And I went with my instinct, the same way I've done my whole career. It was a rough transition. Letting all these people go, throwing out the software. We were, at that point, we'd just about run out of money that my partner had contributed, and me too. So it was a tough decision, but it was the right one. And another thing that happened is we made this decision around June 2011. Here's another example of luck. We made the decision to focus just on higher ed, right? So fired all of our developers, fired our momentum guys. I hired 3 new developers. One of them was my brother-in-law, who didn't know how to code, but we taught him. We sent him to a New Horizons code for a week, code class for a week. He was our Java guy. We hired the smartest kid in Jack's class out of the UT MBA program and said, hey, man, you're our new database guy. He said, okay. Where do I get the books for learning how to do that? I don't know. Be resourceful. And the third was a young lady who was, I think she was 24, and she'd just been fired by Garden.com. Anybody heard of Garden.com? Just been fired by them. That was our development team. No kidding. And they got it done. But in terms of luck, I'll never forget this. So we made the decision in July, August of 2001. And then September 11 hit, right? And we had a real discussion about whether to just say forget it, right? Everybody was beat down. We had no idea if this was the right strategy, if this was the right move. But then we got really lucky because in higher ed, there's this big conference of HR people that happens to be in October every year. It's called Coupa HR. And we were just so lucky that this happened to be this year in Dallas, okay? So we could drive to it, okay? None of it, we were all kind of still scared to get on planes at that point. But we said, well, let's give it a shot. Let's go to this trade show, see if we can get anybody interested. And after that, if it doesn't work, we'll probably call it. So all 8 of us drove to Dallas and went to this trade show and found that there was a real burning need for an applicant tracking system that was just designed for higher education. So we went after it. We went after it hard and became very successful. And the reason is we focused on that niche and let all the other stuff go away. We were still getting calls for those first couple years from all kinds of private companies, public companies, you name it. And it took real discipline to tell American Airlines, Sorry, we don't want to be your pilot ATS. It's not going to work. I'm busy calling Des Moines Area Community College, right, for 12 grand a year. But we did it, and that's what made us successful, because there were other applicant tracking systems in the universe at the time, but none of them had the courage or the mindset to focus on one niche and be great at it. So that focus for us is what led to our success. And by success, you may not think it's successful, but we do. We sold the company in 2008, and at that time we were doing, I don't know, around 13 million in revenue, had about 85 employees, 99% retention rate, 99% customer satisfaction rate, 99% employee satisfaction rate, very cash flow positive, highly profitable. It's exactly what we'd always hoped for. In the beginning, we thought we would hope to get to a $2 million company someday. And now today, People Admin is, I don't know, they've made several acquisitions. I don't have anything to do with them anymore. I wish them well. I think they're closer to, I don't know, 40, 50 million. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool knowing that all that happened because we had the courage to focus on a niche and make some really tough decisions. So this stuff ain't easy. It is not easy at all.
All right, before we get to audience questions,
Yeah.
got one last thing to cover.
I'll keep it short.
It's our lightning round, so that works out.
What is that?
Lightning round. I'll ask you a question, and then you answer with a short answer.
All right. Is this a way to tell me my answers are too long?
No, it's actually written right here, lightning round.
All right. I got you. Go ahead. It does say lightning round.
What startup is on your watch list, and you can't mention any of the ones you mentioned earlier?
I don't have any. What's the name of your company now? Televet. That's on my watch list.
All right.
Televet. Go check it out, especially if any of your relatives are vets.
All right. One work-related book recommendation and one non-work-related book recommendation.
Work-related, one of my favorite books of all time is by Scott Adams, the relatively new one. I can never get the title exactly right, but it's like How to Fail in Life but Still Succeed, something like that. Has anybody read that book? Incredible book. Just do Scott Adams, Amazon, newest book. His blog is controversial. Stay away from the blog, but the book is incredible. What was your other question?
Non-work-related book.
Oh, I just read Bryan Cranston's autobiography, Breaking Bad. Amazing. My son's an actor. I'm forcing him to read this book so we can see how hard it is to be successful. It's a great book, though.
Who do you look up to and why?
She's sitting right up there. She gives me courage every day. That's my daughter, Ellie. Raise your hand, please. Also my assistant for the day, which means she holds my phone and wallet and keys while I talk. She is an amazing person, and I could spend the next 25 minutes telling you why, but I'm not going to do that because it will just make her blush. But having a 16-year-old daughter, all of you are probably, and Preston knows this as well, probably shuddering at the thought. Oh my gosh, she's driving, she's dating, she's going off to college, she's going to think I'm a jerk. She is driving, she is dating, she is going off to college in a couple of years, but we have the best relationship I could ever hope for. It's been wonderful, so don't be afraid of it.
Best advice you've received in your life?
I'm going to come back to that one.
Best kept secret about Austin?
I so badly want to make a UT football joke right now. I'm not going to do it. Come back to me on that one.
Best advice you've received in your life?
You already asked me that one.
That's the last two. If you think of it, we'll get to you. And
there's so many great ones. Here it is. Never give advice, only share experiences.
I like that. Well said. Do you want to hit the best kept secret about Austin, or you want to move on to audience
You all
questions?
know him. I mean, you're all out there. I don't have any secrets. I live at the Bowie. That's pretty cool. Right,
Okay.
Javier? Yeah. It's great. No secrets, sorry. I've only been here 20 years. I haven't figured them all out yet.
Okay, no problem. Now we'd like to open it up to the audience for questions. If you have a question, please come down to one of these two mics and ask away.
Thank you for your time. I'm an MBA student, first year.
Great.
There's a lot of emphasis on getting your personal story right and aligning that with any potential job opportunity, especially if you're switching careers a little bit. Could you talk a little about with Lone Star Overnight, how you kind of aligned your story to that opportunity and how you found success in getting that?
Well, it helped that all the other candidates already had jobs. So what you want to do is shrink that talent pool as much as possible so the only one left going, I'll take it. That helps. Yeah, you got to work on that. Colleges, and you guys already know this, you're already in your MBA program. The most important part of any application is the essay. And it's the same part, it's true of whether you're trying to get a job, trying to get funding for your business, trying to do anything. It's you've got to work on that story. And you know the best thing you should do is practice. That kid up there I'm mentoring, you know how many times I've made him give me his elevator pitch? 1,000. And it kept getting worse for a while. And then it would get better. And then once I thought he had it, I would invite some of my entrepreneurship friends and we'd go out for drinks. And he would just think it was some like social event. Oh, Jeff's introducing me to his buddy. All right, Steven, tell these guys what you do. Right? It was great. But now he has to do it 30 times a day that his company's actually running, and he's not scared of it anymore, and it's pretty darn good. I'm not going to make him do it right now, but it's really good. So work on that story. And think about your audience. You know, what do you want? What is it you want out of life, out of this opportunity? And what do you think they want from you? Just think through it and practice. Practice with your whoever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Grad student here. So my question is about, I guess, you said you focused on the niche because you realized that was the right way to go. So today the word maybe we pivot is the word to use, but so like when you it's different for every entrepreneur to make that decision, but for you, like you said, like it was hard for you to make that decision, but like what put you over there? Was it like just, were you strong in your faith when you did it, or was it, we were always double thinking? Like,
No, you know what I did? It's real simple. A little simple concept I hope they're teaching in this program called market validation. One of the reasons we failed in the beginning is I didn't do enough market validation. I just assumed if we needed it at Lone Star Overnight, that every other small and mid-sized business would need it too, and that was stupid. I didn't do the hard work of calling 100 people in that industry and guiding them through a structured interview format. There's a wonderful book written by a guy, I think he may still be a teacher here, Rob Adams. Does he still work here? Wrote a great book called If You Build It, Will They Come? I recommend that. That would be in that top 5 of my business book list. It's not as entertaining as the Scott Adams one, but it's still really, really important. So when we pivoted, back then we didn't call it pivot, we called it oh crap. When we pivoted to higher ed, before we made that decision, we had that guy I was telling you about, Brandon, and my wife on the phone calling HR officers at colleges and universities and taking them through a structured process. My wife is as introverted as I am extroverted. She hated it. But we found when, for whatever reason, when a female was calling to get market information, because we're mainly calling other females, most of our customers, HR folks in higher ed are women. We just got a higher hit rate. So I said, hey, Marcy, I know you don't want to do this, but hit the phones. And it worked. Her initial interviews got us BYU, they got us Ohio State, our real bellwether clients. And what's awesome about that is now, through all of our success that we've had, it's great because my wife, even though she never ran the company, she worked at the company for a couple years in product management, but she really can say, I helped make this happen. We did this together. And that's awesome. So while I cautioned you earlier about working with family, it can work. Just make sure that you and the family members you work with all have the same goals and are aligned with who's going to do what. Market validation. Write that book down. Rob Adams, If You Build It, Will They Come? Read that book. It walks you through the interview questions, the process. I mean, Steve, I've been harping on Steven on this for 3 years. It will teach you pricing. You'll reveal competition, product features, all this stuff. AcademicWorks, my new company, which we haven't even covered yet, not new. We started in 2010. Real quickly, is this a lightning round or can I go into this? Keep going.
Lightning.
3 partners work with me at AcademicWorks, 3 of my best friends. One of them was the guy I was telling you about. Great guys. if I was ever going to invest in anybody, it would be these three, right? So they said, we want to do software in higher ed, and we want you to be the chairman, but we'll run it, but we just need the money. You're the only one that has any money. I said, okay. So what's your idea? And they said, we want to do this idea. I said, great. How many customers have you talked to? And they said, 5. I go, awesome, that's great. Go talk to 100. And after you've talked to 100, we'll talk. And they, okay. So they went and talked to 100, and they came back to me and they said, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore. They won't pay enough for it to be worth it. I said, awesome. That's great. Look how much time and money you just saved everybody. They said, well, we have another idea. I said, great, what is it? Bup, bup, bup. Awesome. Go talk to 100 customers or 100 prospects and let me know how it goes. 3 days later, we didn't need to talk to 100. We talked to 5. There's already 3 competitors in that space. We don't want in that space. Awesome. Great. Got any more ideas? Yeah, we're thinking about scholarship management. There's not much in the workforce for that right now. I said, great. Go talk to 100 customers. They went and talked to 100 customers. They came back to me and they said, hey, here's what we found. There's a couple competitors in the space, but nobody likes them. There's a real need. Da, 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 da. I said, awesome. This sounds great. Let's give it a shot. Here's a pretty significant chunk of my liquid net worth. I'm going to take a chance on you guys because you did the work. But these are 3 of my best friends who were uniquely qualified to do this job, right, and to start this business, and who had been mentoring for years, but I still would not have given them a dime until they'd gone through this process. Do it. You'll save yourself so much time. Right, Stephen? Okay. Just making sure he's listening.
Like executive MBA.
Awesome.
Love the speech, man. So what was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it along the way?
Oh, the biggest I've explained is not doing the market validation up front. That was a killer. A bigger one is more recent. And first I say don't go into business with family, although when I did it worked. And then I say don't go into business with, I'm about to say don't go into business with friends, but it's working for me. But there are different people in the life cycle of a business that are right for that business at that time. There are people who are just right for your company when you're growing from 0 to 2 million. I'm just going to throw these numbers, 0 to 2 million. Every business is different. 0 to 2 million. There's a different type of skill set and attitude you're going to need to go from 2 to 10. And then that changes from 10 to whatever, right? And when you start businesses with people you care about, you need to understand up front that this relationship might not survive a successful business if those folks don't change or can't change or don't want to change. And I didn't do a good enough job of that along the way. And it's frustrating because not just my current business, but other businesses at People Admin, that caused me some real personal dismay and struggle. And it's just tough. You know.
So staffing's it's a tough component.
I'm talking about staffing with people that you care about.
Yeah.
And investing in people that you have a prior relationship with.
Sure.
It's difficult. Sometimes it works out and it's great, and sometimes it doesn't, and it's not great. And you got to know that sometimes, and that's why I bring this up, because a lot of you are friends. You're like, let's go start a business together. So here's a key learning from that. Here's the best thing I did when we started AcademicWorks. Okay, best thing I did was we went into a room like this with whiteboards. Okay, I said, all right, 3 partners and me. Everybody take out a piece of paper. Okay, take out a pen. I want you to write down the years 2011, 2012, as far as you want to go. Okay? And I want you to write down next to each year, how much money do you want to make each year? What's acceptable to you? Bump, 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 bump. Don't show anybody. Okay? Next, I want you to write down if you want to sell this company, and if you do, what year, and if we do, how much money do you want to make when we sell it? Write that down. Okay? Next step, write down what you want to do now, what you're good at, and how you might see that evolving and over what time period. All right? Everybody got it? All right, pass your papers forward. Pass them forward. Joe, Brandon, Matt, Jeff, write it all up on the board. Then we all sit back and look at it. Are we aligned? Does this make sense? Can we accomplish this given the market we're going after, the product we're thinking about, the pricing, the competition? Does it make sense? Is this even feasible? Does somebody want to make $50 million in 5 years? Or does somebody want to make 75 grand the rest of their life? That's an exercise that you can talk till you're blue in the face, but until you get it up there, especially if you have, even if you just have one partner, but especially if you have multiple partners, it's a great way of avoiding groupthink and also testing your partners up front. Are you guys going to be vulnerable with me? Are you going to be honest about what you really want? Because if you're not, you're probably not going to be a great partner for me. We should just call it right now. No big deal. We can still go bowling. But we're just not going to enter business together. Got it. All right? It's the best exercise we ever did. We didn't do it at People Admin just because Jack and I didn't think of it, and it was a different situation. It was more of a, he was much more the mentor and the founder, or the primary funder and all that stuff. But when you're going into business in a situation like this, if you do, with friends, it's good to go through that process.
So last one, following up on the market validation piece, as far as like eliciting customer feedback, what have you seen as most effective during that dialogue and that conversation? How are you extracting these gems from them, incorporating them in your idea?
Yeah, here's how you do it. And the book explains it better than it. But here's what's worked for us. It's not, hey, I got a new company, I'm thinking about selling you this, what do you think? For us, what worked is, hello, so-and-so at HR, HR at Collin County Community College District. We're considering building a software system to automate the employment application process. We're not here to sell you anything, but we're just trying to understand if there's even a need for this, right? And so if you could just give me 10 minutes to walk me through how your process works, how do you hire people? What are the problems that you face? What works? What doesn't? Oh, that's great, I understand. Oh, these other vendors have tried to pitch you. Why didn't you go with those other vendors? Oh, because of those reasons. Oh, that's very interesting. And then at the end, if it's something that looks good, you say, well, look, we don't have anything for you right now, but would it be okay if I called you in 6 months and let you know where our progress is? And if you're interested in being part of our pilot program, that would be awesome. But if not, it's okay. But with our pilot, you're going to get reduced pricing, never free. Reduced pricing, because if it's free, then they're going to get, they're not going to put anything into it. Reduced pricing, and in our market, what's great about it is we don't sell to Coke and Pepsi. If you sell to Coke and you screw up, they don't tell Pepsi, right? But if you sell to Coke and you do great, they don't tell Pepsi either. But in our market, one of the beauties about higher education is they're not in competition with each other. They're all collegial. All of these schools go to conference meetings together and talk about what works and what doesn't. So the way we were able to grow so fast is we knocked the cover off the ball for our first 5, 6 colleges and universities, and then they told everybody. It still took a while because colleges and universities move really slow, but that was the key to our success. You build up a few stark raving fans that are, whatever your business is, that are vocal and volatile, and now the whole social media, but you get people who are fired up about what you do and will share it. Those are our salespeople. We hire salespeople and pay them a lot of money, but they all know that without awesome customer referrals, it's a waste.
Getting the word of mouth. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Steven.
Uh-oh. This better be good.
All right, give us your pitch, Steven.
No. You guys want to talk about it later.
Yeah.
But something that we quickly learned with entrepreneurship is that you think of an idea, you get really excited about the potential, but then you quickly learn that sales is really everything. So you can go into kind of what your first sale was like and kind of how you were nervous about a product that you just built and you had all these ambitions, kind of how that meshed up with what reality was and what happened.
It was brutal. It was really hard. We just found someone who their pain was so acute and they needed what we had so bad that they're willing to take a chance on some unknown company. It was so bad. And we worked, and this guy named Matt Hawks at Rollins College, and I'll never forget, We released it on March 3rd, 2002, and we didn't know what we were doing. Back then, so it was an online application, so people wanted to apply for a job with Rollins would would apply on our site. And the very first day, we went live at noon. And so we're all watching it and freaking out and just hoping it really works. And we were really worried about security, so we set these crazy, we had this setting where if you didn't push a button on your computer, then it would log you out after like 30 seconds, right? We thought, oh, this is great. Our customers are going to love this, right? So after about an hour, Matt called us and he goes, hey guys, yeah, things are going well, except yeah, nobody can really use the system right now because every time they, turn their head to take a sip of Diet Coke, the system logs them out. So we're like, oh, okay, we'll fix that. And we fixed it, and we were on top of it, and we changed it to an hour, and I think we eventually got rid of it. But just, you have to build a real relationship with those first few customers. You have to let them know they're your partners, that you're going to make mistakes. They won't be mistakes of not trying hard enough. They won't be mistakes because you don't care, but you're just going to make mistakes. And you've got to have a relationship with these folks. So it takes a lot of time to get them to trust you and know that you're going to do everything you can to make them successful. Because if you're not, you probably shouldn't be in business with them. Does that answer your question? Whoever asked that? Oh, yeah, you. But are you saying getting that first sale, though?
Yeah, just receiving a no also, what is it like to get a no, but then have that kind of mentality to say, well, I'm going to go on to the next one.
Can you repeat the question first? Because there's no mic.
What'd you say? What's it like? How do you go on? How do you go on with life once you start getting no's? Is that what you're asking?
Well, sort of. I mean, when you start sales, you're initially pretty nervous because you have this product that you're very ambitious about, and you've talked with your buddy or your partner, and you're pretty millionaires, Yeah. What you quickly realize is that people aren't necessarily as excited about it as you thought they might be. And so you may get a no here or there. And so really kind of overcoming that obstacle, really finding that right first sale like we're talking about. But also, how do you overcome, how many no's is enough and how many no's is, we just got to keep going.
2 words. You've heard me say them already 50 times. Market validation. You don't care if you get no's during the market validation point, right? Because all you're doing is gathering research and trying to build your product or service and trying to figure out what people want and what they're willing to pay for it. Plenty of people are going to tell you no, but if you do your market validation right, you're going to get yeses during that time frame. So then when you're really ready to build your product or service, you already know what they want. You're going to get a lot fewer no's because you've already done the hard work of validating the market. Yeah, it really hurts when you do what I did and spend $1 million or whatever it is we spent on this software that nobody really wants or uses, and then everybody starts going no, and you go, oh crap, it's too late. I've already hired all these people and built the software. Don't do that. Figure it out first and then build it. Same thing I'm sure you're learning in all your classes. But I'm a real life example of failing that way and then doing it right the second time and just being lucky enough to make it through.
Well, we're out of time. So thank you very much, Jeff. We really appreciate you being here, and it was
Sure.
very informative.